want to say shout out to our sponsors, Watchman Cigars, Hill Brewing, Crave Bath and Body, and Level Up Logo. Without you guys, this episode would not be possible. Hey, hello, everybody. Welcome to a brand new episode of the Southern Fried Philosophy Podcast, where it's our take on life, liberty, and the pursuit of gravy, while you, the listener, are invited to come up on the front porch, grab a beverage, and set a spell. We've got a great show lined up for you, as always. This week, we continue our series in the pursuit of racial understanding. We have nationally known Lucretia Berry. She's an anti-racism curriculum specialist, course designer, and author of What Lies Between Us, Fostering First Steps Toward Racial Healing. And she is the president of Brownicity. We're excited to have her on the show talking about systemic racism and how we got here and how we try to work on to get it out. But without further ado, let me go ahead and introduce you to our starting lineup. We do not have Erin this week. She had a rough week at work and she is needing some time. So she is going home and going to bed, which I wish I could do right now as well.
Are we allowed to make that excuse?
Yeah, evidently. She just did. So
I'll see you. I'll see you later, guys.
Good night. Good night. Have a good one.
Good night, everybody.
If anybody could do that, to use that excuse, it could be Magic Man. Magic Man, how you be doing? Or not how you be doing.
Hey,
but
everybody.
What's up?
Oh, gosh. Yeah, no, like we were talking about earlier, I've got a late night coming tonight. After we get done, I get to do a continuation of that go live I was on last week. So, but
not a long night in a good sense, we should say.
Yeah, that's right. But hey, gainfully employed and not complaining.
There you go. We've got producer Brian, who evidently has gangrene. You're very yellow.
I'm yellow?
Doesn't gangrene?
Jaundice. I've jaundice, maybe.
There you go. Sorry, jaundice.
You know what? I can probably fix that. I'll fix that in a minute.
And, of course, I be your illustrious host, Biggin. And how about you? Producer Brian, where can our people find us on the socials?
Well, we are all over the interwebs as I talk and change my color settings at the same time.
Okay. You want me or Ryan to do it?
That's no fun.
Just the
only thing I can talk about. All right. You can go to sfpradio.com where you'll find all of our social media links, TikTok, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, Tinder. I don't know. You can also leave a voicemail there if you'd like to give us a pizza order or tell us any dreams we can interpret. You can find us on YouTube at youtube.com/Southern Fried Philosophy. There's a biscuit and gravy video out there with about 8 views. It's really good. You should check it out.
Nailing it.
Yeah, man. I think
is that just on our site, or is that
I think Jim might have at least 11. So,
well, there we go. We've got 19 people making decent biscuit and gravy in the country. We're doing our job.
That's right.
All right. Educating one person a day at a time.
Did you watch the video? Have you watched us making said biscuit gravy?
Oh, crap. You had to put me on the spot.
No. See?
All right. So, all right. That's okay. That's all right. I'm not.
But
look,
I will now.
All good. That's your homework assignment.
I want to be number 9.
I've said that statement my entire life. Just I'm okay with 9th place.
Nice place.
Right. There you go.
There's 8 participants, but it's okay.
There you go. Just check out our website, sfpradio.com. If you want to contribute to the show, because we have zero marketing budget, we would appreciate, throwing a couple dollars here or there to keep the thing going. We appreciate it. We've got lots of equipment, expensive equipment, stuff that I find on Craigslist and use duct tape. So if we can help get the word out by, just a few of your dollars, that would be fantastic. Just go to sfpradio.com. There you can find a Patreon link, click the link and subscribe, or just give a couple dollars. That'd be great. All right, we're going to do our shout out to our listeners from Iowa. Our guest, Dr. Lucretia Berry, went to Ohio State University. So therefore, we're giving a shout out to our listeners from Iowa. Did I just say Ohio? Because I do that. I get Iowa and Ohio mixed up.
So that wasn't intentional that you said Ohio State and Iowa? They're not even.
I get those confused.
They're not even border states, I don't think.
I know. Is my brain so Iowa and Idaho? I get confused, and 4s and 5s. My brain is just wired so crazy on those two. So maybe she's got an education background. Maybe she can help me learn that. 4s and 5s in Iowa and Idaho. So she's from Iowa State, not Iowa. Oh crap! Not Ohio. See, I can't do this. Iowa State. So let's just start over. Ryan, tell us some folks, tell our listeners from Iowa some interesting facts.
All right. Iowa. Yeah, about their own state. Tell them something they already know.
I quit.
Yeah. Yeah.
Leave the geography to Magic Man.
That's right. Hey, I did major in college, so, you know.
Did you really?
Yeah.
Are you serious?
Yeah, I got my degree is in geography with a concentration in urban planning. So, and urban planning is not something I would probably be doing in Iowa. Well, no, they do have some cities like Des Moines and some others.
People live there, yeah. I
digress, yes. Yeah.
I'm going to need to talk more about this degree in geography.
Yeah.
At some point, not right now.
I don't remember it, but hey. Iowa, the land of where the tall corn grows. Also, it's also the around 7 times more hogs are in Iowa than people. As of 2013, there was 21.2 million hogs in Iowa, whereas the human population was just over 3 million. So hopefully they're talking about the animal and not overweight folks.
Motorcycles.
Yeah.
Motorcycles.
That's right.
It is.
That's right. That's right.
Right.
At 2.4 billion bushels, Iowa produces the most corn of any state, even more corn than some other countries like Mexico. So
really,
I don't know, some of those tortillas and taco shells and what have you, they're probably made with possibly corn from Iowa. Who knows?
Iowa. Well,
I love me some corn.
That's right. Professor John Antasoff. I'm butchering his name, and if he's listening, my apologies.
He's not listening.
You think he's listening?
He's not listening.
Hey, you never know. You never know. Yeah.
Hey, if you're listening, leave us a voicemail with the correct spelling of your name, please, sir.
Yeah, Atanasoff. There we go. Professor John Atanasoff.
Okay.
And student Clifford Berry, both USA, created the world's first electronic digital computer, the Atanasoff Berry computer, ABC, at Iowa State University.
There you go.
It was made between 1937 and 1942. So, hey, we got Silicon Valley starting in the corn state. How about that?
Wow. That's fantastic.
Or hog state, too. Yeah. So, you know, we've talked in the past about going to Buc-ee's, which, by the way, my wife and I did stop at yet another Buc-ee's.
All right.
Traveling from Mobile to East Bank / Chattahoochee, Florida, Bainbridge, Georgia area. Our last place we stayed at, which we'll talk about a little bit more. But anyways, we stopped at a Buc-ee's there again, and we did get brisket. It was awesome.
Fantastic.
Beaver nuggets were fantastic. And yes, the toilets are very clean. As a matter of fact, I was rather impressed with the and this may be getting a little too. Anyways, I was impressed with the urinal. So, yeah. So let me kind of explain why. So, hopefully guys especially will understand that you walk up to a urinal and sometimes there's a little privacy panel between urinals and sometimes there's not.
Right.
Well,
Correct.
These urinals are in their own little enclaves. Like they literally have the wall coming out from the wall behind the urinal. And it gives you nice privacy so you can do your business in peace and
so you
not
can
have
stand
to worry
back
about
a little bit if you need to.
Yeah, exactly. So that I was rather impressed with. And then you turn around and there's the sinks to wash your hands. I mean, it's like they made this nice little arrangement for the flow. You go into your business, wash your hands, and walk out.
Right word.
You don't you don't have to go. Yeah, exactly. You don't. So you don't have to, go around a corner to get to the sinks or anything like that. It's a nice little setup they got there.
This is why we need Aaron on the show.
Experience optimal flow at Buc-ee's. That's right.
Optimal flow at the urinals in the bathrooms at Buc-ee's. Yes, but we also did.
He's a sponsor. Hey, this is free advertising
for Buc-ee's. Yes. Well, the whole reason phenomenal. Why it is phenomenal, and if you ever get a chance to stop at one, it's highly recommend. I think pretty much from everybody on this podcast. So, but the reason why I brought that up was the world's largest truck stop is in Iowa. It is also it is known as Iowa 80. The truck stop is not just a place for truckers to park their bread and butter earning machines, but it also has a barbershop, a chiropractor, a huge museum with antique trucks. It was established in 1964 and dubbed a small city and a trucker's Disneyland. Huh. I hate to see what Mickey Mouse would look like. In short, it is a trucker's paradise. So, anyways, so hey, if we get up that way, me and the missus, I will definitely be stopping at that Iowa 80 and give you all a report on
any buildings with no windows.
Yeah, who knows? I'll let you know.
What does that mean?
You'll figure it out.
All right.
Yeah. And finally, Ashton Kutcher was born in Cedar Rapids, Iowa. So there's 5 interesting facts by the great state of Iowa.
That was just 5?
I love it.
Yeah.
Oh.
Speaking of Buc-ee's, the one in Kentucky opened up this week. And there was, before the doors opened, there was a line of 200 folks to enter the Buc-ee's.
That's like a Chick-fil-A line. The new store opens.
That's just like a normal Chick-fil-A line.
Yeah.
Wow. All right. Well, thank you for that information. Let's go to How You Be Durrin, brought to you by Crave Bath and Body. Listen, I'm almost done with my lavender cedarwood, and I'm anxiously awaiting to open the coffee soap that I have from Crave Bath and Body. I'll probably let you know next week how that's going. But man, I really enjoy that lavender cedarwood. There's real cedarwood in it, so when you're using it, it scrapes your face and like leaves marks. It's fantastic. Just kidding.
That's great. Splinters while you're washing.
That's right. Yeah.
No, it's fantastic. I love it.
Or you can light a small fire in the shower.
You get a little cold, you can light the soap on fire, you're good to go.
That's right.
All right. So How You Be Durrin, we'll go back to Magic Man and his trip to Buc-ee's. But you also, last time you were on the show, we were talking about Rusty's, what was it called? What was the restaurant you were going to?
Yeah, Rusty's Riverfront Grill in Vicksburg, Mississippi.
All right, give us a report on Old Rusty's.
Okay, Old Rusty's. Well, it's hard to believe it was a while ago.
Yeah.
But Rusty's was good. Overall, it was very good. We got there probably about 15 to 20 minutes before they opened for dinner, and there was already a line to get in. I mean, there was literally probably about 30 people standing out in front of their front door waiting to get in.
That's a great sign.
Yeah, it's a very good sign. So we all were just chatting, and then they opened the doors, and it was an orderly entry into the restaurant. Everybody made a line, and the line snaked around the front a little bit inside of the restaurant, and then back up to where the register was. So that way, the people, the greeters or whoever they are, can get them to their tables. And we got to our table fairly quickly. We were towards the back of the line. The service was very good. The people were very friendly in that restaurant.
Okay. So far we've got optimal flow as well.
Optimal flow. Yeah. Very good flow. Yes.
Perfect.
So I had this is bad because it's been a while. I forgot what I had. I think I got a cheeseburger.
You knew it.
And I enjoyed
it.
And I enjoyed the toy that came with it too.
All right.
There it is.
Yeah. But my wife got some fish. It was like fish on Alfredo or something, and she said it was excellent. So the food was very good. very good. I mean, other folks that were there said they enjoyed eating there. The food is very good. The only downside that we had was the bread that they bring out in it before you eat, the appetizer bread. They're like yeast rolls, but you can tell they were like in a freezer or from a freezer and warmed up in a microwave. Because they and it's like they had freezer burn. So that taste you get with rolls when they've been in the freezer a while and they've had freezer burn and they get warmed up. Yeah. And then the butter that they brought with those rolls weren't very good either. It wasn't very good. It tasted kind of,
I'm out.
So
I'm out.
Yeah. So those, that was the only downside. Everything else, great. I would give them a 4 out of 5 stars. And I would definitely go back next time we're in town.
Okay.
All right.
Yeah.
Make sure you send me the link to that restaurant and I'll get on the show notes.
Here we go.
Yeah.
All right. Brian, how you been doing? Oh, sorry. You also tell us about your movie. So where are you at this week?
Well, the next thing we're going to do is we ate at another restaurant, Lulu's in Gulf Shores, Alabama. So the week after we were in Vicksburg, we went to Mobile, Alabama, and the folks that run the campground we stayed at, they were like acting like what's that word, concierge or what? I can't ever pronounce that word. Concierge, thank you. Making recommendations on where to go, and one of the places they said was, "Hey, you need to go to Lulu's at in Gulf Shores, Alabama." Lulu's was opened and is run by the sister of Jimmy Buffett, so it's Lucy Buffett is who owns it, and I think there's a couple of restaurants, so it's like a real small chain, if you'll call it. Mm-hmm. But the one we went to is in Gulf Shores. It's right on the Intercoastal Waterway. And again, I had a hamburger. And Lori had fish skin, and we both enjoyed our meals. It was good food. It wasn't, kitschy like you would think, a place like that. Oh, Jimmy Buffett's sister.
The trash can nachos somewhere.
So it was very good. And it was nice because it was a beautiful day out. So where we sat was in the restaurant, but they have, basically their walls open up. So everybody that's inside is like sitting out. It's like being on a big old gizmo, essentially. And you got the Intercoastal Waterway right there. So we were watching boats go up and down next to us. And, they also had like a little amusement park and miniature golf and other stuff that's right there. But we thoroughly enjoyed Lulu's, and I would give that a 4 out of 5 as well. And I would definitely return to that one. We really enjoyed our food and being able to sit and enjoy the nice weather out there. What was interesting was after we left there, we went to the beach there at Gulf Shores, and parking was difficult, especially when you're driving a large vehicle like we have,
sure.
a 1-ton dually, crew cab, 8-foot bed, big guy, big dookie. Big dookie. So we found a parking place fairly quickly. We walked over to where the beach, and there's like this walk area in front of it that's paved with grass and everything. And then they have stairs that go down onto the beach. And we were getting ready to walk down the stairs, and all of a sudden, here's this beach patrol guy comes up in his truck. "You can't have your dog on the beach." I'm like, "Oh no, what?"
Is it Hank Hill?
And yeah, pretty much. "Boy, you can't have your dog on the beach there." And we were like, "Okay." But see, the thing was, we walk up. There's signs that say what you can bring on the beach, what you can't bring on the beach. None of it said about not having dogs on the beach. And the only thing it said was they have to be on a leash and you have to pick up after them, which is pretty much what you should be doing anyways. Right. So we had our dog on a leash. There's no reason why. So anyways, so we were like, okay, whatever. And we left. We got on the ferry that goes across Mobile Bay, enjoyed the little ride on the ferry, went over to Dolphin Island.
Did you take the RV to the beach there. And Big Dookie on the ferry?
No, just Big Dookie.
Okay. All right. That would have been
we left. So we did all this the day after we came into town.
Okay.
That Sunday.
Copy.
So yeah. So the RV was at the campground, and it was just Big Dookie and Lori and Rita and I. Rita's our dog. Bye, everybody. So we went to Dolphin Island, and we went on the beach.
Oh, yeah.
Beautiful, nice, and then went back. So it wound up, with the exception of Gulf Shores, Alabama. Their beach and the beach patrol guy being a jerk. We had a good day there. We stayed at East Bank Campground, which is in Bainbridge, Georgia, but it's actually closer to Chattahoochee, Florida. And we then this past Saturday we came back. We're back in the Brunswick, Georgia area, so we're staying. Actually, not in Brunswick. We're west of it. Actually, y'all will get a kick out of this. So, in Charlotte, how we make fun of like Gaston County.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so Brunswick is a city. It's on the coast of Georgia, halfway between Savannah and Jacksonville, and Brantley County is next door to it. And the folks in Brunswick make fun of Brantley County, just like we make fun of Gaston County.
Yeah. There's always that county you make fun of.
Yeah. Well, Lori and I are actually now residents of Brantley County.
Well done. Basically, you're from Gastonia. Gotcha.
Yeah.
I mean, your truck is named Big Dookie, so you're going to fit right in there. So there's that.
It, man.
Hey, so I was looking up while you're telling the story. Lambert's, the home of the Thrilled Rolls, is right there in Gulf Shores. And if I would have put two and two together, I would have told you to go there instead of Lulu's, because that place is heaven for a fat man. I'm just telling you.
Ooh.
So if you're over there that way, we'll talk about it more. We're running out of time. But Lambert's, it's where to go. Producer Brian, how you been doing?
I'm good. I have recovered from my lunch.
That's why you got jaundice.
Yeah, maybe. So Biggin's already got some of this information, but I was out running around lunchtime today, and I decided to pick up something from a Thai place on my way home. Mm-hmm. And I like spicy food a little bit from time to time. I'm calling it in. I need a takeout order. And she has spicy, question mark. I went, yeah, sure. Why not? Spicy sounds good. Medium? Yeah, medium. Medium spicy. Let's do it.
Oh boy.
Yeah. So
at that moment, you should have known better.
That's it. It's
so how did it turn out?
It was delicious. It was very good. And people that like spicy food might appreciate this, but there's a sort of euphoria you get when you eat something. Like there's a pain, and there's a relief from the pain, and there's like the flavor of the food, and it all like comes together, and it's like a full body experience because you're sweating, all your senses are tingling, your ears start bleeding sometimes. And it's a really it's something you can't replicate with every meal, right?
I don't know about that, sir. As a fat man, when I eat, I start sweating as well. Start bleeding from my ears.
Yeah,
and getting dizzy. I don't know how that happens.
It's like the meat sweats. Mm-hmm. Only this is after like 3 bites and not a half a brisket. Right.
I need the Thai restaurant community to just do me a favor. Everybody get together and just everybody agree on a common spicy level.
Yeah.
Because you'll go to one and you'll be like spicy medium. And you're like, there's no taste to this one. And then you go to another one and it's like a bazillion degrees. And you're like, how in the world is it so different? So I need folks just to be able to get on the same page. And I mean, just across the board of everything, like your chicken wing sauces, everything is like, is this hot? Is this not? You just don't know. And it's quite frustrating.
Another time I was at I think it was the Thai. It was some Asian place where I ordered something very spicy. I was out of town. I was in Richmond, Virginia. I remember this. And it was like early. It was like an early dinner, like 5:15 or something. And they seated me like in a back room, like out of the way. So they didn't, like I was eating my food and like the water, I needed water so bad, but no one was like even walking around to see me convulsing on the table, needing water. So that food was also very good, but the service, could have. I think I asked for 2 or 3 waters when they came. I said, just give me 2 of these right now.
Yeah.
It was like, it ate all the ice in the glass. Like there was anything wet I could do to get the spice out of it. It was awesome.
I just asked the server, can you just leave the pitcher? That would be easier for you and for me.
I've done that too. Yeah.
So it'd be,
drink directly from the pitcher.
Right. I need a refill on the pitcher, please. Good. We had a great Easter brunch. I think we, as believers, we enjoy the resurrection of Jesus, and then we also enjoy eating the most bacon we could in a single day. I think that's basically how Easter runs for us now.
Wow.
But we had ham, which again, I think Jesus was Jewish. He didn't quite eat the ham. But so we had a ham. We had green beans. Kept it easy, a potato casserole thing.
Yeah.
But then my wife decided she's going to make a pineapple bake. Have you all ever heard of a pineapple bake?
No.
Is it like a cake?
Oh, no. It's not a cake.
Pineapple bake. Like a hot pineapple. Like I've grilled pineapple.
Yeah, we've got some hot pineapple. We have got... is that a question, Brian? Or is that
That's not a question. That wasn't a question.
Okay. But a pineapple bake, and it's pineapple, right? But then she mixes sharp cheddar cheese and bake it, and then Ritz crackers.
Okay.
And then some butter on top, and then bakes it. And it's crushed pineapples, and I say to myself, this is going to be gross. This is going to be disgusting. She's like, just trust me. And after 17 years of marriage, I know, just trust my wife. Just whatever she says, the answer is yes. Just do it. And so we have our meal, and I try it, and I was preparing myself. Turned out it was fantastic. So
yeah,
pineapple bake is the way to go. You got the sweet, you got the sharp cheddar, you've got the crunch of the Ritz crackers, the butter. I know it sounds weird, but it's delicious.
This had to be an accident in like the 70s, right?
Oh,
Like
absolutely.
some I want to say housewife, you know what I mean? The 70s, they had those still.
Sure, 70s.
Had to make something for a potluck, and it's just like, oh, I don't have any food. Here's a can of pineapple, a box of Ritz crackers, and a block of cheese. Let's go.
Go.
Right? Stick of butter. Here's casserole.
And then they're like,
bam.
this is genius. Boom.
Yeah, history was made.
There you go. All right, so I ran across this on TikTok, and I wanted to get your all's thoughts on this. So the question is, in a bowl, which do you put in first? Do you put in the milk, or do you put in the cereal? So I want, Ryan, do you put in the milk first or the cereal first?
I do the cereal first.
Okay. 1 vote for cereal. Producer Brian?
This is madness. But cereal first. You have to put the cereal. It has to be cereal first.
I thought that. And I thought, well, this is a TikTok joke. It has to be, because they filmed they asked 7 people, and all 7 said milk first, which I don't get. My head
rigged. Doesn't
understand. You put the cereal in first, and then put the milk in, because if you don't, then the cereal just sits on top. Until I asked my wife the same question: milk or cereal first? And she said she puts the milk in first.
Okay. What was that number you said a minute ago? 17 years?
17 years.
And you didn't know the answer to this question already?
No, because we never eat cereal at the house. It's like bacon and eggs. And it's very rare that she eats cereal. But then she even goes a step further. She puts the cereal in a whole nother cup, and then she'll spoon in the cereal, let it sit for a minute, and then eat it, because otherwise she says it gets too soggy.
That's extra. I'm sorry. That's just... who has the luxury of time to individually steep every bite of cereal? I got places to be in the morning. Cereal goes in, milk goes in. if you do it the other way, you don't have the ratio right, unless you're like drawing Sharpie lines in your bowl and you've measured it out and you're that kind of crazy. I don't know.
Well, I'm a fast eater, so the cereal doesn't even have time to get soggy.
Right, that's true. That's what I say. Just eat the cereal
Put
faster.
Cereal in, put the milk in, and boom, boom, boom.
So this fascinates me. So I think it potentially. I want to get Aaron's opinion. If we get just the milk first, if we get none of those answers besides my wife, then I'm just going to call it null and just be done with it. Because I think it was a thing. But it is interesting. Milk or cereal first? I want to know everybody's thoughts. So that may be our question of the week. I'm going to put out a poll. If anybody will actually take a poll, that would be great.
I don't know if I want to know. I've already lost faith in this country, so that's not going to help, I think.
I wonder if it's a generational thing too. Because, TikTok is mostly used by Gen Zers and millennials.
Yeah.
And maybe,
so, and we're all kind of, I'm a Gen Xer. Brian, you're kind of,
I'm in the middle. I'm in that weird, like, it's not a real generation thing. I'm not a millennial, but I'm not a Gen Xer.
Well, both of you,
audio cassettes and AIM at the same time.
Yeah, that's right. But both of you, I think, are in that what do they call that micro generation, the Xennial, which is Anyways, so but I wonder if it's a generational thing where the younger ones do the milk first and then the cereal, and then older folks do the cereal first and then the milk. That would be curious to see.
Yeah, well, we'll ask. We'll ask. I'll do some research on that one.
Yeah.
But speaking about losing your hope for humanity, one person that is not allowing us to lose our hope for humanity is our next guest. Dr. Lucretia Berry is an anti-racism curriculum specialist and cultural specialist, course designer, and author of What Lies Between Us, Fostering First Steps Towards Racial Healing. She is a TED Talk speaker and a writer for Encourage Me. She earned her Ph.D. in Curriculum and Instruction from Iowa State University and her B.A. from South Carolina State University. So, Dr. Lucretia Berry, thank you so much for joining us. This is a huge honor. I really appreciate you taking the time to come on our show.
Oh, she's muted.
Uh-oh.
There we go.
Oh,
now wait, it looks like I'm lagging. So can you hear me and see me okay?
Yes, ma'am, we can.
Okay, great. Thank you for having me. I heard your interview, your conversation with Wendy last time, and you made a comment about Iowa State and how you wouldn't hold that against me. So I appreciate that, and I'm happy to be here.
Well, it's South Carolina State. I'm a Kentucky Wildcat basketball and football fan. So I know our teams play each other every once in a while. I don't really have anything against Iowa State. You may have us have something against us because we beat you in the bowl, but it's okay.
Yeah, it's okay. It's all good. I don't play, so I really don't care.
I was earlier on the show, I was telling the audience, my brain gets Iowa and Ohio or Iowa really confused. I don't know why it does it. 4s and 5s and Iowa and Idaho. See, there we go. Iowa and Ohio mixed up. So it's silly brain, but it's Iowa State. We made that clear.
That's coming. Yeah. So it's coming. It's Ohio, Iowa, Idaho. It's all people confuse it all.
Right. Well, let's not confuse our topic. We are talking about racial reconciliation and how can we make this world a better place. And I looked through and I can't find anybody better than you to help us move forward in this. Your TED Talk was phenomenal. I was telling the guys pre-show that my wife was actually at that TED Talk. So that's cool. Yeah.
That's great.
Yeah.
That's great.
So we're very excited to have you on and help us move forward. And I just really want to acknowledge and say thank you from the bottom of my heart to be able to tell your story and to help us learn from that story. I know it's a lot, and so I appreciate you doing that.
Well, thank you so much. And I appreciate your learning journey because, we have a choice to, learning is a choice, right? And so we can choose to learn, we can choose to grow, we can choose to, operate in our power to, make the world better, or we can be complicit. And so I appreciate that you have chosen to grow.
It took a lot of years to get here, by the way. So tell us, what is Brownicity and why did you feel the need to start this?
Okay, well, Brownicity is the organization, I call it an education agency, that I started in 2015, essentially to bring scholarly informed and evidence-based education knowledge to, I'm going to say, just the general masses, because I have, a doctorate in curriculum and instruction. And because of my, tenure, in academe and, being able to be a graduate student and study anti-racism education and multicultural education in general, or, being exposed to people from all over the world and ideas and sit at tables from people all over the world. I'm pretty privileged in terms of my understanding of history and the context that we live in. And so around 2014, people were coming to me with questions, and I'm going to say, like, people at my church, and I attended a multiracial church. So people were coming to me with questions because that was around, Trayvon Martin and Tamir Rice, and that kind of, was getting a lot of media attention, and so then with the Charleston massacre that happened, people were thinking, okay, we thought that we were post-racial. Right. And now, and so we're not. So can you explain why? And so it really started with a lot of casual conversations. Because, you might think, well, why would they just randomly ask her? Well, my husband is white. So people assume that we have a handle on. And it's not because we are a, so-called interracial couple that we have a handle on this. It is because we both have a background of learning in this area. So, right. So we didn't come into our marriage kind of, pretending to be colorblind at all. We were very racially aware, and educated and informed, and being very intentional about choices that we were making. So that people then would ask us questions about race all of the time. Now, fortunately, because again, we are educated and actually felt like this educating people was our contribution to the world, then people found us easy to talk to. And so finally, I'd get questions like, Lucretia, you've met my mom and, she's really nice, but she says some things that are just wrong. Just wrong. I know they're wrong, but I don't know. I don't know how to help her understand that they're wrong. Those kind of questions, or, why is, this still happening? Or even very vulnerable questions like, Lucretia, I have never in my life had a negative experience with an African-American man. So how come when I'm in my car and an African-American man is walking down the street, I lock my door? What is that about? So, and so I clearly saw that people needed like a formal education. And so as a nation, we are woefully undereducated about race, which is kind of crazy because it's so prevalent and touches all of us and touches every area of our life, right? It's like kind of like math, right? Like it teaches everything, right? Now, or gravity or what, or air. Right. And so, and so I then created Brownicity as this space, initially to kind of formally allow people to together and ask questions and have conversations. And then I was eventually asked to teach, like, okay, can you do something more full? Like, can you put something together and teach us? Now, fortunately, my background is in curriculum and instruction. So designing a course was, easy and fun for me. And so I designed a course, and I call it like an onboarding course or a foundation course to help people have a foundational understanding about race, when it was invented, why it was invented, how it still persists 400 years later, how it impacted us, how it continues to impact us, and then how we perpetrate it and perpetuate it. And that course ended up being what is now called What Lies Between Us, Fostering First Steps Toward Racial Healing. So Brownicity. And so Brownicity continues to be an educational platform. Initially, we served like churches and church groups, but then we've grown to now we serve schools, companies, and we love, creating learning opportunities. So I think, people are kind of finally understanding that, a learning process is very intricate. There we go. It's bedtime, so my body is shutting down.
I understand. Yeah, the kids to bed. All you want to do is sleep.
Yeah. So people are understanding that, it takes more than just, I went and heard this one speaker that one time, or I read that one book, or my pastor talked about it, and so now we're all good. It's a whole learning journey, and it's a lifelong learning journey, and you need to learn, unlearn, process, practice, apply, reflect, and then redo. So people need ongoing support. And so that's what Brownicity offers through courses and webinars and talks and live events. So that's what Brownicity is. And I'll explain the funny word. Brownicity is a made up word. It combines brown, the word brown, and then ethnicity from ethnicity. And brown represents the melanin that we all have. So that kind of throws back to, yes, we're one humanity, right? Wendy talked about that. We are one humanity. We all have melanin. I have more, which is why I have my skin tone. You have less. This is why you have your skin tone. And then ethnicity comes from, like I said, the word ethnicity, and ethnicity means that which we have in common. So Brownicity is, not just this space, but the word itself is this embodiment of we are many hues of one humanity, and we need space to, grow into who we really are, and acknowledge how we have been divided and deceived about who we are in terms of a racial hierarchy. So that's Brownicity.
And you got that from your daughter, is that right?
Oh, look at you! Look at you knowing the story. That's right. She, because we knew we would need to have very informed conversations with our children, being multi-ethnic children. There's one thing to navigate our hyper-racialized society as a Black woman, and I'm from the South, so I had particular education and was equipped how to navigate the South. Yeah. And my husband, is from Iowa, so he would have gotten a very different, toolkit or education about navigating. There was no Black people, so he didn't get it. So then, we had to be. So it was well, how do we then teach our children who are going to have a different experience than we had? And when our daughter talked about, us being all shades of brown, we grabbed that. Yes, that's it. We are shades of brown. And then that gave us the framework to be able to talk about, ancestry and, the sun and melanin. And it was very developmentally appropriate, because then later when we introduced this whole thing, race, race is about the rules and value placed on, how we look. So, because we had normalized, normalized diversity or differences, the diversity of differences within the humanity, it made it so much easier to talk about race and talk about race as a construct, instead of central to our identity. Like, so many people struggle with that. So look, the babes out of the mouths of babes.
You're absolutely right. Yeah. And what I love about you, and what you're doing is it comes from the educational perspective, and it's not just, how I feel or what I think or what news bite we get this week, but it's educational based, learning it just like you said, math or gravity or whatever. There's specific terms for there's specific definitions for those terms. And I think what causes a lot of confusion is we'll hear racism and it can mean 14 different things. But when you come from the perspective of its education and this is what this word means, then that helps solidify and we can all get on the same page.
That's right. And that's a soapbox I stand on. Even when we start our courses, it's like, we have to know what these words mean. The very first time we taught the pilot, one of the couples who were participating, and they were friends of ours. And I remember we had gotten into bed and they texted me and they said, "Hey, we don't agree with this definition of," I can't remember if it was race or racism, but I think race. They didn't agree with it or something. Racism. They didn't agree with it. And so I said, "Oh, you're doing your homework out of order. So first, watch this. So you have this understanding, you have this historical context, then the definition will make sense." And so, then they got it. So you have to understand, we have to understand what the terms mean, and not, it is frustrating sometimes to see words being weaponized in popular culture. That is pretty disturbing.
I'm a C student from Duval County, Florida, and I do know that I had to learn division before algebra. So you got to put those things in place and you got to do them in order. So that helps.
That's right.
Yeah,
that's right. Scaffolding.
So last week we talked about, and you heard Wendy talking about the construction of race and how that happened in the country. What I really would like you to talk about is educate our listeners about the systemic racism. We hear that word again thrown around. Oh, it's systemic racism, whatever. There's people that I talk to that say, well, we've had a black president, like you said, so therefore racism is out the door. I mean, that's a whole nother show. But there are those things that are in place that has caused that separation that we have now. Again, the redlining, the GI Bill, education or the lack thereof. So can you talk about how do we see systemic racism in like public policies or the things that you might see more than we do?
Well, and I think that's the thing with systemic racism. It is difficult to see unless you are, a student of, let's say, like if you're a law student, right, and then you are being trained in policy or to see, to look for policies, to look for particular practices that disproportionately harm people of color. And so there's that, but also systemic racism encompasses history and it encompasses practices and outcomes compounded over time. So, you think about how you build wealth, you build wealth, you have, you have equity, and then, you invest that, and then, it builds over time. You need time for that to multiply. I'm not a finance person, so I don't know all the terms. So then it works the other way too. Or it works with negative things. So negative policies and practices, personal practices that happened. I'm just going to say like a generation ago, compounded over time, still are in place. So I'm going to give you your listeners 2 examples to illustrate what I'm talking about. Well, first I will say, here's one thing for people who are beginners. I often recommend the movie Hidden Figures, because Hidden Figures is a Disney movie, right? So it's, and it's a little bit whitewashed, but I mean, it's a great example of, you see the lives of these women, you see how they were not, so one woman, for example, could not become the engineer that she wanted to be because she had to have gotten her diploma from a particular school, but only white students could go to that school. So if you have, right. So the only way for you to get into a particular program is to have a prerequisite that took place, and at a school that's outside of your ability to attend that school. So then over time, how is that? What is the impact of that? So now in the Disney movie, she has to go to court. She has to go to court and she's pushed, really pushed and supported by some people she's working with, I guess, at NASA. And then she goes to court, and then she's able to get in the class, and then she takes the class, and then she's able to get into the program, and then she's able to be a NASA engineer or mathematician. Okay. So now if she had not been able to, or just think about all the people who were not able to go to court to, get the diploma that they needed in order to go to the program to become these engineers. So look up how that impacts generations, the generation after them. So in this case, somebody's mom got to be an engineer, but look how many people didn't get to be right. For that, and then how that impacts people over time. So one of Brownicity's operations manager, Amy, she did some research on her family and learned that when her grandparents came over, or when they came over, so she was able to track when they came over from Germany and then settled in the Detroit area, and then how they were able to, build a sustainable life, and compared them to their Black counterparts who at that time were being redlined or being kept out of this opportunity to be able to buy a home and build wealth. And so you can parallel the two and see, she paralleled what her grandparents were able to attain, which of course then benefited her parents. Then of course that benefited her. Right. But the Black counterparts were not able to, because of policies and laws, race-based policies and laws, they were not able to achieve that. So even when, redlining was outlawed and prohibited, that span of time, you don't get that span of time back to go back and compound the wealth and compound the opportunities. And so now that's just about where someone lives and the wealth they're able to acquire. But then that doesn't even consider or take into account, then what's going on with the schools in an area that, so now you have an education that is under-resourced. Your schools are under-resourced. You, when companies and banks divest these, redlined neighborhoods, then that means you have your food resource. Your food source is not of good quality. I remember when I had gone off to college, but my mom and her husband moved into a predominantly Black area. And then she was telling me how the Food Lion, they learned that the Food Lion was taking expired meat from the white Food Lion or the Food Lion in the white stores, and then just changing the expiration date, and putting it in the Food Lion in their neighborhood. So then imagine how that contributes to, and that that's not a long time ago. Like, I'm not that old, and so you think about, so how does that impact health? How does it, I think about my grandfather who served in a war, the Korean War, but was not able to take advantage of the GI Bill. And then it was pushed to rentals. And so then his whole generation, and then his children, which is my dad, they grew up in rentals. There was no home ownership. So they're building wealth for the people who own the homes. And those people can send their kids to college. My grandparents can't send, their kids to college, or can't, weren't able to live in areas where, with better schools and, more opportunities. So it compounds over time. So then my dad is the first generation to, be able to go to business school. I'm a first generation, full college student. Again, I'm not that old, like the first generation. But then I think about, again, not having access to great medical care, how far you have to travel just to get fresh food. And then, when poverty is compounded in areas, then crime rate goes up. And so, his sister was murdered, in this area. So it's a lot of things working together, compounded together, which again, if you're not paying attention and you're not connecting the dots, you can't see it. And so, yeah, systemic racism sounds like some bizarre boogeyman. When you're not able to connect the dots. And I actually use that analogy when I am teaching, or when I first start my beginner courses. It's like, I'm not trying to tell you what to think or anything like that. I'm just going to give you some more dots so that you draw a full picture. Because, those connect the dot pictures where you go 1, 2, 3, right? And then you see the picture, oh, it's a flower or whatever, right?
It's the magic eye, right?
Yeah, it's a puppy.
Stare really hard.
Something. So you connect. But if you don't have the dots, you can't draw the picture. And so you can't see systemic racism if you don't have the dots.
I have a question. So, I didn't know about half of this stuff. I'm 41 years old. I grew up in the South. Some of the things you said apply because I was the first college graduate in my family, but we were poor white people, but I had no idea some of these things existed.
Right.
Until recently. And that blows my mind. And I'm a history guy. I love history. And I always thought maybe the schools, they never got to modern history because they ran out of time right around May, so they always missed the last 50 years. And now I'm wondering if that was intentional or not, right? Because we didn't get into that part of the history books, if it was even in there, right?
It wasn't in there.
Okay, that's what I want to check.
It wasn't in there. Yeah, and that's on purpose. I think, growing up, I feel fortunate that I was just able to see stuff for myself, or that I come home and, I tell my parents something that I learned at school and they would amend it. So for example, I remember I think I was in middle school. Well, it doesn't matter. But I remember, the teacher said that, slavery in America wasn't that bad, and that the slave, she would have said slave masters or whatever, but enslavers treated their slaves well. And I remember thinking, oh, well, that's good. So I go home and
nice.
I go home and well, everybody has got it wrong all this time.
It's a misunderstanding. Right?
Luke's got it wrong. No. So I go home and I tell my mom, and so she says, and she says, no, she said, no, that's not that's not the case. And she explained to me why my white teacher would feel the need to tell me that. Or like, well, if it wasn't so bad, then how come, and so she offered, or when I remember learning, we're taught meritocracy, right? If you work really hard, you can have whatever, you can be successful. And I thought, oh, that's good news. So I go home and tell my mom, Mom, guess what? If you work really, really hard, you can be successful and have whatever you want. And she's like, no. She said, well, the slaves worked really hard and they weren't able to, accomplish or achieve what they would achieve. So see how I was going home and my education was being broadened and amended. And I appreciate, being shown those things and being a part of, my parents encouraging me to be a critical thinker. Like, like everybody I knew worked hard. Like I didn't know lazy people. Like growing up, everybody worked hard. And I'm like, and we poor and we, whatever. Yeah. And it just isn't about economics. But, my point is, yes, it's on purpose. I think that we don't, that we haven't been taught this. And so when people do learn it, there is so much cognitive dissonance because, you think, how could I not know this? And so, we weren't taught that in schools, and many schools still aren't teaching it, again, which is why brownicity exists. I hope that brownicity would be obsolete someday and that we would, that we would learn this stuff. So, because when we're informed, right, like when we have a mutual understanding, mutually informed people seldom disagree. Then we can be a part of mutual problem solving. So we can't solve problems together, if we don't even have an understanding.
That'll preach. So you said a few things. You said GI Bill and redlining, like we knew what we were talking about. Can you explain why the GI Bill was so detrimental to the African American community and why redlining and what is it? Because I feel like most of our listeners may or probably won't know these things.
Oh, that's no problem. Okay. So GI Bill wasn't detrimental. It was actually very helpful to the servicemen who had access to it. So after World War II, when the soldiers came back home and they're needed to build homes and start families before World War II, like you would have to have like 50% of the price of the home in order to, own a home. So I know, and that's something. So then they created what we kind of have now. Well, 10% down or 20% down, then you pay over time. And so they created that. And they created this GI Bill where, the soldiers could have access to loans, like with very extremely low, super low interest rates. And so then however, during that time, they were only because I'm trying to think like how much do I go down this rabbit hole, but I won't go too far. During that time,
super interesting. So as much as you want.
Yeah, well, I don't want it because I don't want to shoot people with the fire hose. You can learn over time, and so or take my course because they really break it down in the course. But so then with the GI Bill, people were able to go to college, and or buy a home, but they only made it accessible. They made it accessible to white people or people categorized as white. So I think the statistic is only 2% of the GI Bills went to people of color. And when I say people of color, that's all the people of color. That's everybody that's not white. 2%. And the rest of it was just all white. And so it was that. And then redlining. So all of this kind of went together. Redlining was a way for banks to then place value and cause some chaos in with neighborhoods and home ownership. So they came up with a color scheme. And I think, let's see, so red was the lowest. And again, I could be getting this out of order, but then there's green was high, blue and yellow, and red was the lowest. And so then they would literally like kind of take out a map and draw lines around neighborhoods that they deemed bad investments. And when you go, for example, when you, what is the name of the book? I have to, I have so many books in my, like, anyway, it's okay. But but the thing is about redlining is that it was so arbitrary. So it wasn't that they had any kind of, they didn't base it on anything. It was all just subjective. Like, well, because this neighborhood is, predominantly Black, we're going to draw a red line around it because, that's why. And here's the thing, again, we present this in the course, neighborhoods had covenants, and the covenants would explicitly say, this neighborhood is, for, white people only, affluent. So, I mean, it was a whole, there was a whole protocol. And they officially put these policies in place, and then real estate agents aligned with it. Mm-hmm. And so that's how, again, Black people especially were pushed towards rental areas or pushed towards places that were being divested, while white people were being pushed, like the suburbs were being created. Mm-hmm. So the suburbs were created, and white people were being pushed towards the suburbs, and then they were being invested in and kind of able to accumulate all of these resources. So redlining was kind of a banking thing. So the banks were in on it, real estate agents were in on it, the housing industry in on it. So again, it's multiple things all together, not just one thing when we talk about a system.
Correct me if I'm wrong. So the way that I understood the GI Bill, people came home and like you said, they were trying to build the houses, the families and whatnot. There's one example, if you want to research Levittown, where it was a community being built, suburbs, and they would allow those the white soldiers that had the GI Bill to go into this town and establish home, get equity, like you said, to be able to live in this community, but they wouldn't let African Americans in. And so they were forced to stay in those, like you said, the downtown, the urban areas, while the white flight was happening to get everybody out. And then the red line happening, where they said, this is really where if a bank is going to invest in a community, you don't want it in this red line. You want it out here in the suburbs, because that's where your profit's going to be. That's where you're going to make the most money. And the fact of you could qualify for a loan only in these redlined areas if you were African American, but these blue lines or whatever, those are much are easier to get for white families. And so that's where that line occurred, no pun intended, of that separation. And I had no idea, like Brian was saying, I had no idea that this was happening or this had happened back then. And that's what caused that.
Yeah, and it's designed. And so we think that, we segregate because of some kind of in-group, preference. But no, the segregation was designed. Right. So, and we still see that trend today, where by and large, white people segregate themselves the most. So it's like this is mad rush to like leave the city and move out to a suburb, and then sometimes over time, then it's like, okay, now we got to move even further out. and the irony is, and then, you know, there'll be like a hyper white space, a suburb or neighborhood, and then they'll say, let's do a diversity initiative. Like,
Wow.
wait, hold on. And here's the other thing, and I love that Wendy brought this up, but in that whole redlining scheme, there was something called block busting. And this was a way for the banks to take advantage of white people because they would play on their fears. They know that, you know, people racialized as white are taught to fear everybody else. They don't even know why. Just taught to fear everyone else. So then the banks would make right, and the banks would kind of play these games and say, well, Black people are moving in. Do you want to live near Black people? All kinds of creative things. Like when you look into, or, you know, when you watch the video or take the course, it will blow your mind. And they would kind of play these tricks and then get white people to sell their homes cheap to the bank. And then the bank takes the home and sells it for multiplies the price and makes a huge profit. And so again, everybody loses. It's not just about, you know, race isn't a people of color problem. Race is a white problem. It was created to manipulate white people. Huh. And so it continues to do that.
That's nuts. That's insane.
Isn't it? It is so nuts.
I just can't.
So our last episode was Wendy kept saying the phrase, white people are good people. Now I'm going to use the phrase, I hate all white people. I'm just kidding.
Right?
It's a joke. I'm so mad at us.
Yeah, that's
I think it's just needing to be again, because again, when we have this association that racism is about Black people or people of color. And it really is like racism, like Black people are just saying, okay, hey, here's the problem. But if you're benefiting from, you know, systemic injustice, then you're less likely to take a look, right? Mm-hmm. And so I am constantly pointing when the majority of my students are white. And so, yeah, I want them to see that, this is really about white people. This is really about you abdicating your power. So giving up your power to be complicit in a system of that appears to be, you know, benefiting you. But then, like you said, like you were like, I grew up poor too. Mm-hmm. Yeah. But yeah, but it is meant to manipulate white people. So you think about, you know, the history that Wendy shared. It was like, how do we get these God-fearing white folks to disalign with the working class of color? So how do we get the God-fearing working class white folks or Europeans to disalign with the working people of color? Oh, okay, well, we create this status and then we give them white status, which is, you know, up, you know, one step up on the rung. And then we blame all the problems on the people of color. So again, with redlining and block busting, you know, the banks were able to say, well, yeah, like, you don't want to live near Black people, do you? Like, why not? Like, what's the problem with that? And even the banks were giving a lower rating to neighborhoods that were mixed. There were so many neighborhoods that were racially integrated and were doing just fine. Just fine. Wow. No problems. This was post-Reconstruction. Just fine. We were, for the first time, this like interracial democracy, multiracial democracy. But then, you know, it's like people in power know how to play the race card to manipulate white people to then align with harmful beliefs and practices. And yes, it's at the expense of people of color, but it's at the expense of white people too. So, you know, racism is really destroying all of us.
Yeah. See, it goes both ways a little bit. Because I know I think there's a distrust of white people maybe in the Black community too. Like just because of we've been the benefactors of a lot of these policies, right? So I know it's different, I know, but there's things on both sides that make it difficult to move forward. Yep. Right.
You are so right. And that word, distrust is key. Yes. Yes.
And you were even just talking about, white flight going out of the urban areas, but now you got gentrification, and now that comes into play. And most people would think, oh, well, you've got this, $1 million home next to this $15,000 home. That would make their property value go up even more. So that's great.
Yeah.
Not so much, is it?
Not so much, right? Because I can't pay the property taxes. If my house is, $30,000 or whatever, I can't pay the property taxes. So.
Yeah. I think there's a lot of some intentional, but a lot of unintentional consequences that not unintentional consequences, unintentional understanding of what happens, in that, this neighborhood's coming, it's up and coming. Well, there's reasons for that. And there's going to be some stuff some impacts that you may or may not understand.
Right. And, and the thing is, so it can be up and coming, and then we can invest in improvements, but then we can also look out for people. Like, people don't have to be steamrolled and dispossessed, disenfranchised in the process. It isn't like, I think we often think, well, there's nothing we can do about it. That's just how it is. Nope. How it is how we make it. And we can make it, right?
How do we move forward? What's something that we can do?
Well, I think first we have to, choose to understand racism. Was it last week you called it racial understanding? Sometimes people call it racial literacy, racial competency. We have got to understand this thing, I don't know, the way we understand football. See, I don't understand football. And I'm like, we can understand it because it's basically, it's patterns. It's, it's a system. So, when I'm teaching my high school students, we'll get to a point in history and I say, now, can you tell me what you think is going to happen next? And they can, because at this point, they've seen the patterns. Or I'll say, hey, this happened. Tell me where you've seen the same thing happen in history. And then they can tell me. And so it's patterns. So it's like, if we just choose to study it and get good at it, which we can, like, we're human, we can do it. Yeah. We can choose to get so at it that then there is no place for fear, because fear comes in where we have a gap in understanding, right? We fear what we don't know. And then there's so much shame attached to that. So we don't know it. So then there's shame. There's shame because I didn't know. There's shame because I'm white, or there's shame because my ancestors were enslaved, or there's shame because my ancestors did it. Okay, so if we can just choose to have no parts of that and get really good at understanding this, I know that we can, dismantle it, deconstruct it, stop being bossed around by it, and we can create something better. Sometimes I see really intelligent people who are choosing racial ignorance because it's comfortable. Because that's it. I'm all about being comfortable. I always say, because there's that saying, people say, oh, we just got to get uncomfortable. But I'm like, well, I think we're already uncomfortable. Let's get comfortable. Let's normalize this. Let's normalize this understanding. So again, like, we don't need a brownicity, right? Like, oh, we got this. We understand this. We see how this functions. And then, in our own personal lives, we begin to make decisions that, kind of pulls the cogs out of the system, and then the system weakens. And then in our schools, whatever, in our communities and churches, and, with our platforms, wherever you have influence, then you, choose to disconnect from the system. Yeah. So that's what we got to do. We have to, and I also feel like we're afraid to, we don't know how to use our imaginations.
Sure.
Right. So we can imagine something better. We can imagine something different. I was in a session with, and this guy was like, what was it? It was about Stamped from the Beginning. So it was like a group talk about the book Stamped from the Beginning by Ibram X. Kendi. And the guy was like, well, it was like slavery, Africans being enslaved in America was inevitable. And he said it had to be that way. And he explained his thought. And I thought, wow, you have like zero, like in his mind, like, it could only have been this way. And I'm like, okay, I wanted to like expand your brain. Mind. Okay, how else could we have done that? Well, we could have done sweat equity. My husband helped build a company. He worked initially for the company. He worked for free, and they gave him stocks in the company. So then when the company started making money, then they paid him, but he still had stocks. We could have done something like that. Like, I get it, that was cheap labor, but we could have put things in place to not dehumanize people. But see, again, we have to activate our imagination, and we have to be willing to see the problem, call it a problem, and then reimagine a better way forward. And sometimes, Wendy talked about the brain last time, and first of all, our brain is designed to keep us comfy and consistent, right? Like, don't want to do that work.
Yeah.
Right.
I don't want to try to get on the treadmill. No, I'm good.
I'm good. That's okay. But we are also neuroplasticians. As humans, we can step outside of ourselves and think about how we think and see how we think. And so we're neuroplasticians. We can rewire our brains. We have the ability to, reform. And so we just have to want to.
Yeah. And you also said too, I think in a previous interview of like, we need to use our imaginations, but we also got to be critical thinkers, and we don't teach that at all as well. Right. And that's frustrating.
Yeah. Because if we taught you how to think critically, then would you be complicit? Like, would you go, okay, I'll go fight your war, even though it has nothing to do with me or something,
Right. I'll sign up for that.
Yeah, I'll sign up for that. No, we have to be critical thinkers.
Yeah. So, all right. So how can people get a hold of your curriculum? How can people get a hold of you? How do we make ourselves better by taking your courses?
Yeah. So, and now my courses are, our courses are in stages. And so, we have like the introductory level course. And so What Lies Between Us is an introductory level course. And then we have where you can get more into some heavier, thicker, more complex stuff. And that's called intermediate. And so we have a learning community. So if you go to brownicity.com and click on learn, then there's all the options that you can learn with us. We have a learning community membership where you can pay $10 a month or $110 a year and just get in there and take those courses. What Lies Between Us is just, it's a study guide, and you access the resources through our website. So, we offer different price points. So, for example, for the person who says, well, I just want to buy the book for $10 and then just take my time and go through these, go through the curriculum, like, you can access the resources for free. But then there might be people who say, well, I want some support. So you want me to pop up on a video and talk to you and guide you. Then you purchase that. That's inside of our learning community, and you can purchase that. For people who, What Lies Between Us has a faith element to it. So for people who don't want that, we have the same course, but it's called Foundations. Foundations, we offer companies and schools, and because it doesn't have the faith part. But it's exactly the same, just without the scriptures. And so we have stuff for families and kids. We have, again, we have media literacy in there. We have understanding conspiracy theories, how to talk to your kids. So all kinds of stuff on our website for people who want to sit down and learn. And then also, if you subscribe to our newsletter, then gotta sneeze. Oh, sorry. Then that's how you find out when we're doing things live, because we love to teach live as well, whether that be in person, we will come to you, or whether it's a Zoom. So that's how.
Perfect.
Runningspeed.com.
Awesome.
You follow us on Instagram. We post our bloggers are people who continue to learn, and then they share what they're learning, which I love, because it is
nice.
An invitation, right? It's an invitation for people to learn. So.
Yeah. My wife asked, who do I have on this week? And I said, Dr. Lucretia Berry. She's like, oh, I follow her on Instagram. And I went to the TikTok and all that stuff. So I'll be sure that I do that. Wow, what a blessing. Thank you so much for coming on and, again, telling your story. It really does mean a lot. It's not just a line. Like, this was very helpful. Thank you.
Oh, thank you so much. And again, I appreciate you all, elevating this conversation and also elevating my voice in the conversation. So thank you so much.
Yeah. I have one question before we let you go.
Yeah.
I know you heard our conversation before you came on about the cereal. I know you have an opinion because I'm looking at your bookshelf behind you, and they're color coded. There's a green, blue shelf. There's a red shelf. There's a yellow shelf.
Wow.
There's a very specific thing happening there. So I know you have strong opinions here.
That's right.
So we need to know milk first or cereal first.
Cereal first.
Right. Okay.
I don't understand the milk first thing.
Right. Makes no sense.
Yeah.
It just makes sense. It just makes sense.
Right.
Well, thank you again so much for coming on. I'd love to have you come out to maybe our church and do some sessions. That'd be fantastic.
Yeah, that'd be fun.
Yeah.
Well, let's keep in touch.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Thank you again so much. Have a good night.
You too. Bye-bye.
Bye now. Ooh, that was good. That was some good stuff.
That was very good.
Wow. So I could just talk to her forever. Like I could ask so many questions, hard questions.
And maybe this is something that we bring back again. Maybe next season as we get a little bit deeper and dig a little bit harder into that. Because you're exactly right. I could talk to her for an entire season. Because there's so much stuff there. And next week, guys, I'm telling you, next week is going to be phenomenal. We have Tim Emery. He is a criminal defense attorney, and he's running for Mecklenburg County district attorney. And he's going to talk about social justice in the criminal justice system. I went through a course, and he taught it, and the stuff that he said, you thought this was mouth dropping, which it completely is, but this is more, I don't want to say current by any stretch, but this is a huge issue that there's just so many facts, figures, and everything else. There is facts and figures of everything else. This was just, for me, super impactful. I'll just say it like that.
So I should or should not get the Law and Order sound for the soundboard?
Oh, absolutely, you should.
Okay.
Yeah, make sure that's there. Yeah,
probably. I do have
unsolved mysteries as well.
I have I have one of the. Oh, what was it? I can't find it now. I have one of the law shows. Was it the People's Court or something? I thought I used to have it.
I think we did a People's Court. Yeah.
Maybe I don't have. I thought. I think it's gone now. Oh well.
Oh well. So he's going to be on next week. That wasn't it.
What was that? I didn't hear that. I didn't do anything.
I heard it. Ryan, did you hear it?
Hear what?
No, I didn't hear anything.
What'd you hear?
What? I heard like a bell. It goes dong. You didn't hear that? Next week on Unsolved Mysteries. Wow.
In a
world where one man. Anyway, so he's going to be on next week. I'm really excited to have him on. And then that's going to be episode 199B, because this is 199A. Technically, if you go through the list of shows that we have, there is a a missing episode 16. It is no longer there. And so this is going to replace episode 16. So we may just call it episode 16.
Is that a conspiracy of some kind, or?
No, I'm not even, I'll get to it offline. I'll tell you offline. So, but there's no episode 16. So our 200th episode, we've got a big guest coming on, and I will save that for next week. So you want to tune in. Who's going to be on episode 200 of the Southern Fried Philosophy Podcast?
Woo-hoo.
All right, guys, thanks again for tuning in. And as always, keep looking up.